Come on in, welcome to Idled Out, where we talk all things Survivor. My name is Luke, and today we're talking about the Survivor players who've sat out of the most challenges. The bench, my personal favorite position to play in competitive sports, and apparently many of our favorite Survivor players' favorite position, too. In Survivor, when one tribe has more members than the other, they typically have to bench their additional members, so that the amount of players competing in a given challenge is even. Because of this rule, players who are physically weaker or just plain bad at challenges, and who are on constantly winning tribes, get sat out of challenges a lot, much to the chagrin of the world-class athletes on Survivor's Facebook comments section. The bench warming doesn't necessarily stop at the merge, however. You can get benched in the post-merge by not getting selected to compete in a team challenge, or even voluntarily sit out to eat food or score things like shelter improvements or extra rice for your tribe. Gosh, who was it that did that in season 37? Cere or Allison? I can't remember. Whoever it was never brought it up again. I'll be looking at total challenge sit-outs across all seasons, pre- and post-merge, to see who truly warmed the bench the most. Basically, if there was a challenge and butts were on benches, it counts as a sit regardless of context. Is Sandra not only the queen of Survivor, but queen of the bench too? How many members of Courtney made the cut? Let's find out. All that said, let's dig into the biggest bench warmers in Survivor history. At number 5 is Cere, with 7 challenge sit-outs across 4 Survivor appearances. Now, despite being the 5th most benched player in Survivor history, I actually don't think Cere's a horrible challenge competitor. She just has very clear strengths and weaknesses. It's Cere's first and last appearances on Survivor that vault her to the top 5. With 2 pre-merge sit-outs on Exile Island, plus a post-merge sit-out for food, and an additional 2 pre-merge sit-outs in Game Changers. In Exile Island, her whole story was that she was the woman who got up off the couch to come play Survivor, a player who got by not on her physical or outdoor skills, but her social and strategic acumen. I actually think Kasaya owes much of their pre-merge success to Cere, despite her sitting out a lot of challenges. Physically and frankly mentally weaker than Lamina, there's really no explanation for why a tribe as messy as Kasaya scored win after win after win, other than Cere Michael Bluthing this tribe behind the scenes. She sits out 2 challenges in Game Changers, one on Nuku and one on Tavua, both the dominant tribes of their particular phase of the pre-merge. In Game Changers, Cere is notably absent from a lot of the pre-merge narrative because she was one of the only actual popular players to go far, so they had to squeeze the screen time out of Tony, Malcolm, JT, and Sandra while they could. And so her only real storyline is Cere bad at challenges. Sorry, Cere, but no one's going home until you cross that beam. Cere would likely be higher on this list if not for Survivor Micronesia, where she attended 6 out of 8 pre-merge tribal councils, never once on a tribe with the numbers to bench anyone. Like, what's the deal with post-swap Malakal? They're like a hot mess and lose 4 consecutive immunity challenges, despite having Ozzy, Eric, Amanda, and Joel. Like, what's the deal here? Is Chet just like some sort of challenge vampire? Like he just sucks all the challenge skill out of his tribe mates until they're worthless husks? That's the only explanation I've got. Cere's complete domination of the game, despite her frequently underwhelming challenge presence, only makes her game more impressive in my opinion. She's completely controlled the game front to back twice, and never been just conventionally eliminated by a majority vote. All this while being afraid of leaves. At number 4 is both Katie and Janu, with 7 challenge sit-outs across their single appearance in Survivor Palau. If we were counting challenge sit-outs across single seasons, Katie and Janu would be number 1. No one has ever sat out more challenges in a single season than they did in Palau, and with shorter pre-merges and the slow elimination of reward challenges in recent years, it seems highly unlikely anyone will ever break this record. Like, where were these two on Game Changers? I mean, it's borderline impossible now that players could sit out this many challenges in a single season. Survivor 41 literally only had 10 pre-merge challenges total, and even the winningest tribe Luvu's benchwarmers, Erica and Heather, only sat out 4 challenges apiece. And yet in Palau, we had the perfect storm for Katie and Janu to spend literally half of their pre-merge challenge appearances sitting on the bench. That perfect storm would be a longer than usual pre-merge, no tribe swaps, a strong Karor anchored by Tom and Ian, and a particularly pathetic Oolong, who specifically decided not to have a leader and then voted off their strongest competitor first, a very wise and smart thing to do. Karor won all but 3 reward challenges and every single immunity challenge, slowly grinding Oolong down to just Stephanie. We honestly can't even make fun of Katie and Janu in good faith for sitting out so much, because by the end of the pre-merge, when Oolong only had a handful of players to Karor's still full roster, they actually had to change the rotating sit-outs rule, which states that you cannot sit out back-to-back challenges in a single episode cycle, so that members of Karor couldn't compete in back-to-back challenges, keeping the spirit of the rule just in reverse. Literally all of Karor's women are in the top 10 most sit-outs in history, and all the men come close too, with at least 4 sit-outs apiece. This really isn't just a Katie and Janu are extra bad at challenges thing, they were just the 2 worst at challenges on a tribe that experienced unprecedented winning. To answer an age-old Survivor question, was Karor just that good? Or was Oolong just that bad? Yes. At number 3 is Abby Maria, with 8 challenge sit-outs across 2 seasons. Now, why would anyone ever sit Abby out? 5 of Abby's 8 sit-outs come from the pre-merge portion of Survivor Philippines, where she was on the constantly winning, constantly arguing Tandang tribe. Abby apparently tore her ACL early on in Philippines, and so it's lucky for her that the first 4 challenges of this season were combined reward and immunity, meaning that the back-to-back challenge sit-out rule did not apply. So Abby was able to sit out the episode 2, 3, and 4 challenges without issue, since her tribe was up in numbers. In episode 5, Abby competes in the reward challenge, her first challenge appearance since episode 1, because Matt Singh is dissolved and Malcolm and Denise are split up, evening up the tribal numbers once again. But just later that episode, Dana quits. So Tandang is yet again up in numbers, and yeah, they're not going to sit out Pete. She technically competes in the episode 6 reward challenge, although she never hits the field, because during the first round of the reward, the players hit a stalemate, and Penner and Scoopin negotiate a deal, in which Scoopin forfeits the rest of the challenge on Tandang's behalf. Then, you guessed it, she sits out that episode's immunity challenge. So, to summarize, Abby legitimately played in the first challenge, where she blew Tandang's hearty lead. She competed in the episode 5 reward challenge, where she beat Dawson in a hair-pulling contest. And she technically competed in a challenge where Penner and Scoopin sat in the mud for an hour, then her team forfeit. Abby Maria returned in Survivor Cambodia, and heading into Second Chance, fans were eagerly awaiting the conclusion to story arcs, sometimes decades in the making. Would Savage finally make the jury? Will Steven take down the big threats when he has the opportunity? Has someone programmed feelings into Spencer? But for me, it was, will Abby continue her sit-out streak? Unfortunately, like fans of Vetus, Shirin, and PG, I was initially very disappointed, as Abby was instead on consistently losing tribes and competed all throughout the pre-merge. But then the heavens parted, and as if making up for lost time and fulfilling destiny itself, she managed to sit out 2 post-merge challenges, an impressive accomplishment no matter how you cut it. Sure, Jeremy won and Wentworth negated the most votes ever, but Abby sat out of enough challenges to make her a top 5 bench warmer in history, so who really made the most of their second chance? At number 2 is Courtney, with 12 challenge sit-outs across her 2 appearances on Survivor. I know what you're thinking. challenge god Courtney, the woman that has more individual immunity wins than James, Yule, Ben, Earl, Tommy, and Cere put together? I know, hard to believe, but it's true. In both her seasons, Courtney's limited abilities in the challenges were major sticking points for certain members of her tribe. In Survivor China, Jean Robert was borderline obsessed with Courtney, frequently targeting her as a challenge liability, even though Fei Long consistently dominated the challenges in the pre-merge. I mean, that could be because they benched Courtney 5 times, but who's counting? At Fei Long's first tribal council, Jean Robert harps on Courtney over her physical weakness and points out her and Leslie specifically as the weakest members of the tribe, which makes Courtney emotional. In a rare vulnerable moment, she says just how frustrating it is to be consistently called weak, and says how difficult it is for her that the tribe benches her. And after carefully listening to Courtney, Jean Robert responds considerately.
When it comes to the 3 strongest girls, it is clearly Denise, Amanda, and then who? We're playing for $1 million here. We're not babies in a campground.
All of that sitting around doing nothing actually paid off big time in episode 8, where the immunity challenge was just sitting around doing nothing, which Courtney actually wins. There's a certain poetic justice that Jean Robert went home at the only tribal council in history where Courtney had immunity. In Heroes vs. Villains, Courtney was once again viewed by her tribe, particularly Russell, as a challenge liability. But this time, she had a bench buddy.
We have to do something.
What do you think?
I think we need to weed off the weak.
What do you suggest?
One of these.
In the first half of the game, the villains had major momentum and were spanking the heroes, largely thanks to Boston Rob and Tyson. So despite Courtney and Sandra sitting out a ton of challenges, they were insulated from any danger for the first part of the pre-merge because they were in tight with Boston Rob, Tyson, Jerry, and Coach, the kind of majority alliance that All-Star season dreams are made of. Once that all fell apart and Rob was voted out, Courtney's consistent non-performance suddenly became an issue for everyone, even for Jeff, who flails around in a desperate attempt to blame anyone for Boston Rob's elimination, and somehow lands on Courtney as somehow partially responsible, even though she did not vote for Rob.
If given the choice of Tyson or Boston Rob over, say, Courtney, I think 99 out of 100 people would probably pick Tyson or Boston Rob.
For a long time, Courtney's whopping 12 challenge sit-outs seemed unbeatable. But as is always the case, the queen eventually reclaimed her crown. The queen of challenge sit-outs is, of course, Sandra, with 13 sit-outs across her 4 Survivor appearances. Sandra sat out the literal first challenge she was eligible to do so, the Pearl Islands Episode 2 Reward Challenge, and never looked back. While Sandra was never good at the Pearl Islands challenges, it was in Heroes vs. Villains where she really developed her reputation as the sit-out queen. As I literally just said, the villains got the numeric lead early, allowing Momentum and Boston Rob to carry them through challenge win after challenge win after challenge win. Or for Sandra, sit out after sit out after sit out. You could basically set your watch to Sandra and Courtney raising their hands when Jeff asks, who's sitting out? She sat out an additional 4 times in Winners at War, the combined reward and immunity challenges doing her a major favor. With the Edge of Extinction eating up so much airtime, rewards were either eliminated entirely or folded into immunity, so she could sit out multiple challenges in a row, which she did.
All right, Sandra, Tony, take a spot on the Sandra sit-out bench.
It's genuinely impressive to me that Sandra was only around for 6 episodes on Winners at War and sat out during 4 of them. And I'm not even counting the 2 Battleback challenges that she missed. Although I wish she'd stayed just so she could vote for Tony to win at the end. I kind of admire someone who gets to the edge, takes one look around at challenge gods like Natalie, Tyson, and Rob, and is just like, yeah, no. These Sandra sit-outs likely don't even end here. She's appearing in an upcoming season of Australian Survivor, and with her penchant for getting benched and that series' major focus on challenge strength, it seems highly likely that she'll be sitting out at least a few more challenges and increasing her lead in the very near future. Lord willing. Got nothing else for ya. Don't be a YouTube bench warmer. Like and subscribe and I'll get you more Survivor content just like this. Until next time, don't get idled out.